Hello, and welcome to another edition of Just 5 Minutes in Acts, short 5-minute studies from the New Testament book called the Acts of the Apostles. I'm Clay Brown, Associate Pastor for Equipping Ministries at Memorial Drive Presbyterian Church, Houston, Texas. And with today's passage, we're going to look at one thought and then one implication of that thought. And by implication, I simply mean if the thought's on target, then here's what it can mean for your life and mine. Today's passage, Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 16. I want to focus on verses 1 through 5. Let me read them from the New Living Translation. But there was a certain man named Ananias who, with his wife Sapphira, sold some property. He brought part of the money to the apostles, claiming it was the full amount. With his wife's consent, he kept the rest. Then Peter said, Ananias, why have you let Satan fill your heart? You lied to the Holy Spirit, and you kept some of the money for yourself. The property was yours to sell or not sell as you wished. And after selling it, the money was also yours to give away. How could you do a thing like this? You weren't lying to us, but to God. As soon as Ananias heard these words, he fell to the floor and died. You know, God always blesses the reading, hearing, and studying of His powerful, transformational Word. What's the one thought here? The judgment upon Ananias and Sapphira shows God's justice and holiness are just as much a part of His character as are His grace and mercy. Now the problem arises because Ananias and Sapphira see all of the kudos being given to Barnabas in Acts chapter 4 for Barnabas' incredible gift of funding for the early Christian movement. And they want what Barnabas received. Only they're going to sell property, keep a portion of the cash for themselves, give the remainder to the apostles, but play it like they're giving the apostles the entire amount. Now, there's not a problem with selling property and giving some and keeping some. They didn't have to sell it at all, in fact. Property sales weren't mandated by the apostles. But lying about what you're doing in order to receive plaudits and recognition, ooh, that's low. But worse, trying to deceive God and acting like getting away with it is the easiest thing. Now, notice I said trying to deceive, because you can't successfully lie to God, can you? I mean, like He doesn't already know. Come on. This debasing of God in both power and intelligence, you're saying God is both weak and stupid, has to be nipped in the bud now. And so it is. First Ananias, then Sapphira. Everyone will be awed and astounded by the God who doesn't let the scoundrels get away with it. Now, what's one implication of this thought? Our question shouldn't be, well, why does something happen like this to Ananias and Sapphira? Our question instead should be, why doesn't this happen more often to people like us? We're so used to grace and mercy, we think it's the usual state of affairs. See it every day. Sun comes up, oxygen to breathe, water to drink, food to eat, clothes to wear, people to love. It doesn't have to be that way. The late R.C. Sproul helps us here. He once said, and I quote, "We become so accustomed to God's normal patterns of grace and mercy that we not only begin to take it for granted, we begin to assume it, to demand it, and then if we don't get it, we're furious." You know, colloquially, we talk about people spontaneously combusting because of something sinful they've done. Now, if we ever move to, God, give me what I deserve, then I predict life will be filled with spontaneously combusting humans, popping off like popcorn everywhere, all over town. Pop, 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 pop. And human history then can be summed up with an allusion to Hobbes: nasty, brutish, and short. Yes, God usually acts with grace, but don't presume. Remember, God is just and holy too. And remember, grace is a gift from God. Mercy is a voluntary choice by God. Why doesn't an event like Ananias and Sapphira happen every day? Because God gives grace. Because God chooses mercy. Through His Son, Jesus Christ, we can be reconciled to God by His grace and mercy. We can live in His grace and mercy, and we can treat others with the same grace and mercy. Well, I think that's enough for now. Any questions? Email me at cbrown@mdpc.org. That's cbrown@mdpc.org. Next time, one thought and one implication from Acts chapter 5, verses 17 through 42. Please subscribe, click on the button, pass these studies along to others. Thanks. God bless. Take care.